Our run wall has been very good. It's going to be tested this week, probably like none other up to this point. So.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to Mason Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. I'm Dennis Fithian. We'll be with you over the next few minutes, talking about the latest in Michigan sports, and that has a lot to do with Michigan football as they prepare for their home finale this Saturday against Illinois. That was Jim Harbaugh talking about the outstanding running back for Illinois. Chase Brown leads the nation in rushing yards. That'll be a challenge for the top-ranked Michigan run defense. It'll be a challenge for Michigan against Illinois anyways, considering that they're 10-0 and you get seasons like this that at this point now, survive, advance, get there. You know what we're talking about that way. What else are we talking about? Well, let me tell you. First, I want to tell you that you should go out and get something for the Uber Michigan fan in your life. That could be you. And there's nothing wrong with hooking yourself up. Give yourself the prize of knowing everything about Michigan before everybody else. Join up with Amazing Blue Review. You can get 50% off your first year right now. Get full access today. Use the promo code MBR1YEAR. That's MBR1YEAR. Go to michigan.rivals.com. As far as what we are going to be talking about today, it is that outstanding running back for Illinois. We'll give you an update on what Brett Bielema, his head coach, had to say about Chase's chance to play against the Wolverines coming up Saturday. We'll compare him to Michigan's running back, Blake Corum. They both wear the number 2. They're both having great years. We'll look at the numbers and talk about the two running backs. Speaking of the infirmary, guys banged up, we'll give you what we know about the injury report and update. We'll start talking about what's on everybody's mind, whichever way they want to look at it, about Michigan's passing game. And if it's good enough to win it all. Is Michigan's passing game good enough to win it all? We're a show where you can type on in and get your thoughts in. You can answer that question if Michigan's passing game is good enough to win it all. And we put your responses up on the screen. If you have a question, you have a thought, you want to answer the question of the day, you go ahead and do that. We're interactive, so we like doing that. So that is the question that's on a lot of people's mind. Is U of M's passing game good enough to win it all? And I think that the answer to the question, call it a burning question, the question of the day, is U of M's passing game good enough to win it all? I think it is. Like I said yesterday, like I said Saturday, I would like Michigan to have the ability to throw bombs, to take the top off of the defense, to heave the ball down the field, throw the ball as far as the quarterback can and have the receiver run up with it. Touchdown under it. Touchdown. That would be nice. To have that. It's a really nice thing to have. It's dangerous, big score. It's a real flex, for an offense to be able to have. But I do think that Michigan can win it all if they do what they've been doing, and that will include not being able to connect on those downfield passes. If they're doing all the other things, I think they can. Now, they did just do it last year to Ohio State, and every year is different. There's, sure. I mean, it doesn't mean just because they did it last year doesn't mean, obviously, that they're going to do it this year. And I do believe that the answer is yes. But it's also something that makes you think about, and this is where you'll have the college football playoff rankings come out tonight. If Michigan would have hit on, let's just say over the last two games of Andrell Anthony, down the middle, if he'd have made an outstanding catch, he could have made it. It was pretty close to being a connection. If he'd have made that catch, if last game, if Cornelius Johnson would have made a catch down the right side, we'd be talking about this is, a passing game that's a downfield passing game that is coming along, that they're making some connections. And, for me, if Michigan had the downfield attack, they would be the favorite to win it all. And the conversation tonight, when the college football rankings would be out there, I wouldn't care. Georgia, I'd vote Georgia 1, and I'd have Michigan 2. But if Michigan had the downfield attack and it had shown the ability for the last two games, I wouldn't be sitting around sweating Georgia. I wouldn't be sweating Ohio State. I'd be thinking that Michigan has every chance in the world to go down and beat Ohio State a week from Saturday. As it is, as it sits here right now, I'm going to be honest with you. I think Michigan is a slight underdog to Ohio State. Now, I know they have to play this Saturday. I'm still fast forwarding all the way to a week from Saturday in Columbus. As I sit here right now and talk about that game, yeah, I think Michigan can win the game. I do think that they will be the underdog, as everything that I look at, they're a slight underdog. You might not want to hear that. You might not like saying it. I'm saying it. And I also think that as we sit here, that Michigan is the favorite against every other team except Ohio State and Georgia. And, they have one of them right in front of them. And, if they beat Ohio State, you're going to be like me. You're probably going to feel like they can then beat Georgia. So it's all in front of them. I think they'll have a chance to do all of those things. When it comes to throwing the ball, there's a lot of people that have a lot of different things to say about being able to do it. Certainly the wide receivers can help. I just went over that. Andrell Anthony could have caught that ball over the middle. Amarian Walker had one down the sideline that it was against Rutgers that, he went down on a knee. He could have caught that one. That was kind of down the field. Those two happened. And then Cornelius Johnson snags that one this past Saturday against Nebraska. And we're not talking about it to the degree that we are. Remember, prior to the Rutgers game, when we were sitting here, I was as well. We were looking at Michigan and saying, hey, Michigan, they need to score touchdowns when they get into the red zone. You can't be settling for field goals. When the big-time games roll around, you got to be able to hit pay dirt. Got to be 7, not 3s. Well, along that same time, you're looking at the numbers and the red zone touchdown efficiency, and Ohio State was awesome. Like, they're, like how many ever times they were in there? Like 38. And they had 36 touchdowns. It was just an incredible clip. Then they played Iowa. Then they played Penn State, and they were like, 2 of 7 for touchdowns. So their touchdown efficiency went way down. Meanwhile, Michigan, over their past 2 games, they've been in the red zone 12 times, 10 touchdowns. That's good. They've improved there. You don't see people talking about Michigan's touchdown red zone efficiency anymore because they went out there and did it. Now the wide receivers, like, people want to talk about, I don't believe, like, if you're talking scheme, like routes run, it's too simple. The coaches aren't scheming them open. I'm not buying that. People are saying it a lot. I'm not. I don't believe that. I do believe that the wide receivers can help. They can get open a little bit more. They can catch the ball. That's how they can help. When it comes to throwing the ball deep, it is a game of confidence, touch, and accuracy. Some quarterbacks are better than others in throwing a catchable football. Whatever the loft is, whatever your feet, the mechanics, and everything else, when you're throwing it out there, some guys are very good. They say they throw a very catchable football. A pure passer, being able to get the ball down the field. J.J. McCarthy is not that. I mean, like, what we have seen so far, it doesn't mean Matt Stafford had one of the best arms that I've ever seen, coming out of Georgia. And even though pretty early on, he threw for 5,000 yards, he still, when it came to accuracy and touch, he worked on it. You can work on it, and you can get better. For me, I think about like when I was in high school basketball, I couldn't really shoot 3-pointers. I shot them. And if you would have asked me when I was in high school, hey, can you shoot the three? I'd be like, yeah, I can shoot it. But honestly, I wasn't a good 3-point shooter, even though I would have told you I was. It wasn't until after I was done with high school, because I can remember. I can remember some things you just remember. I remember the very spot I was at, and I was kind of like, whoa, I'm putting a little bit more. Wait a second, it's clicked. And I was a much better 3-point shooter. I got it. Like I was like, you just find that touch. And JJ McCarthy has not found that touch right now. He can get it. Would you expect him to get it during this season? Probably not. But it's okay. What I'm saying about it. What I think, I'm thinking about a couple things, and it goes back to, can Michigan win it all without the threat? They have the threat. They'll probably still do it, but without being able to connect on downfield passing. And my answer is still yes. Here's a couple things that I have been thinking about since Saturday. One, in the NBA, the Milwaukee Bucks. One of the best players in the NBA, you could say the best player, is the Greek Freak. And the Greek Freak there's one thing that he can't do. And the thing that Giannis Antetokounmpo can't do, he can't shoot threes. In the NBA, and you talk about basketball right now, and you say, hey, what's the NBA all about? It's about threes, man. You got to shoot threes. Like Golden State, Steph Curry. You got to be able to shoot. It's a great equalizer. You got to be able to pour it in from downtown. The Greek Freak can't do that. And yet the Bucks, a couple years ago, with Antetokounmpo, sometimes playing old school, back to the basket, playing down low, he was a force. And he did everything great in leading the Bucks. Great defense. He did everything great except that one thing, shoot threes. And the Bucks were able to win a championship by doing that. I think of Michigan like just Antetokounmpo. They could do everything else that you want to do out there, out on the field, out on the floor, except shoot that three. Remember last year in the playoffs, Stan Van Gundy was the color analyst in one of the games, and the opposing defense would slack off. They'd give 3 feet. They said, "Go ahead, Greg Freak, go ahead, shoot it." And once in a while, he would shoot it. And Stan Van Gundy got so irritated with it, he's like, "You're just playing right into the defense's hands. Don't shoot it. Like they want you to shoot it." And then the Greek Freak, you know what happened? He started making some of them. And then Stan Van Gundy had to shut his mouth. So, but I think that Michigan is like the Antetokounmpo. They can win it all. They're not the 3-point shooter. They're not what everybody says pass happy team, but everything else they do. They play special teams. They run the ball. They play great defense. And speaking of that, there's two things. You say basketball, football. All right, I'll buy that. You don't like, or you want a better analogy, or you want a better comparison. I think of Bill Belichick when he was the defensive coordinator for the Giants, and in the big tuna, Bill Parcells, back in Super Bowl 25, 1991, Whitney Houston sang the greatest anthem of all time. The Giants were a big-time underdog to K-Gun, Marv Levy, and the Buffalo Bills. Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills, outstanding offense. Andre Reed, Thurman Thomas, these were high octane. And, they were going to win a Super Bowl with it. And you know what Parcells did to the K-Gun? They ran it down their throat. They played ball control. We still talk about that Super Bowl 30 years later because it's the way that you can beat high-octane offenses. You know how you do it? It's really simple. I don't have to be sitting here with Bill Belichick or Bill Parcells. Dennis Fithian here to tell you the way that you can win championships and win big-time ball games in football. It was true 30 years ago. It's true right now. Ball control and defense. Run the ball, keep it away from the offense, and play great defense. You can do those two things, you can win. Mark it down. It doesn't matter if it's 2022. It doesn't matter if it's 1991. You can run the ball and you can play defense. You can win. That's the way Jim Harbaugh wants to play football. That's the way he has his team playing. So, yeah, I'm sitting around talking about it. It's the headline. Yeah, Michigan passing the ball. Can they do it? Can they win? Yes, they can. And if you are somebody like, you know what, dude, I wasn't even born in 1991. I'll go ask my grandpa about that game. Well, last night, I was watching the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles against the Commanders of Washington. And the Commanders got torched on their opening drive, and the Eagles went right in. You know, they were a double-digit favorite, and I thought, this game's probably over. But you know what the Commanders did? They started running the football. They started playing really good defense. You know what they did? Did I mark it down? Let's see if I marked down the numbers for the Commanders last night. I did. The Commanders beat the undefeated Eagles last night on Monday Night Football with time of possession. They controlled the clock 40 minutes and 24 seconds. So that's under 19 minutes for the Eagles. And they won the turnover battle. They ran the ball and they won the turnover battle. You go back to Super Bowl 25, I guarantee you that ball control that the Giants had over 40 minutes of time of possession. It was true then, and it was true last night. It'll be true a week from Saturday in Columbus. It'll be true on New Year's Eve. And it'll be true on January the 9th in the national championship game, if that's when Michigan meets Georgia. They can win the turnover battle. They can control the ground game. And they can win a national championship. That's how I feel about it. That's where I'm at with it. Whether you want to go to the Greek freak analogy, whether you want to look back to Super Bowl 25 or you want to look to last night on Monday Night Football. Run the ball, play good defense, win the turnover battle, play special teams. It's a formula that's tried and true. It can win you ball games and win you championships. So my answer is yes, you can do that. Let's see what the people are thinking about what I have to say about the passing game as we sit here right now. Jason says, good afternoon. Apologies. He hasn't been here the last couple days. I don't know. Diverticulitis is not fun. I don't even know if I pronounced that right. Jason, I hope you're on the mend. I hope you're back, man. That does not sound like anything fun to go through. That's for sure. Can we get a stat comparing this defense to 97? I've talked a lot about the Michigan defense in 97. The best Michigan defenses of all time, you go to 97, 85, in 76 or 77. Those, in terms of points per game, this Michigan defense and where they're at right now, they're right up there with those defenses. Like, they're number one in the country right now, and they're pretty close to where 97, where 85, and where I'm going to say 77, and where it could be 76. 77, 97, and 85. This defense is comparable in terms of points per game. That's how good they are. So that is that should make you feel good. It sure should. The captain is throwing out a theory. Michigan will run the triple option for 20 plays. Yeah, I don't think, like, look, there's ideas, Captain, about, I don't know if you're talking about doing it this Saturday or doing it against Ohio State. Like, Michigan could be working on a goal line package where, sure enough, they could come out and they could show a triple option, and maybe they have a package in where they'd actually run something. Maybe Orgy. Maybe you'd have, Corum, Edwards, and Orgy back there with McCarthy. You got all guys that can move and catch and, everything, throw. So I could see that. But 20 plays going to that is not, I think that a package, maybe. 20 plays, I'm going to say probably not. Jasmine. What's up, Jasmine? I remember you being on here. Jasmine saying, I think it's close enough to beat Ohio State to win it all. Not yet. We will need more when it comes to the playoff, in my opinion. Yeah, that's a very reasonable opinion. And I think most people, like if we were making up a poll, is the way Michigan playing right now good enough to beat Ohio State? Is the way the way they're playing right now, good enough to win it all? I think people would answer positively to the Ohio State and probably be like you. Like, it's probably good enough to beat Ohio State, probably not good enough to win the national championship. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think that I understand it. I think that Michigan right now, I don't think they're like a big time underdog to Ohio State like that. I think they're pretty close. Like they're not going to be some 10-point underdog to Ohio State. 2.5. We'll see what happens. Coming up on Saturday. Maybe they already have a number out, and I'm just throwing it out there. But yeah, and then, if this kind of thing continued, though, it's a long ways away to the semifinal, which is on New Year's Eve, and then to the 9th, which would be the championship game. I'll tell you, if Michigan, punches Ohio State in the mouth after they beat Illinois, and then they run roughshod through Indianapolis to get into the college football playoff, let's say they play TCU and they, manhandle them. I don't think Michigan's going to be sitting around being a 10-point underdog or something. I think they'd have a pretty good chance. That's even without being able to feature the downfield passing, but they would be an underdog. And with that, it kind of fits what you're saying. Close, but not yet to win it all. But you're not saying like there's no chance. Like, and then this is a lot of like, this would be like kind of a sports talk, or if you're a columnist, Michigan can win the Big Ten, but they'll have no chance to win a college football playoff. That might be a nice thing to say if you were a radio host, might be a nice column for you to push out. That would get a lot of feedback from people, but I don't believe that myself. It's a nice opinion. You could back it up with a lot of different things, but I believe that Michigan can beat Ohio State. They did it last year playing this way. I think they could do it again. And I think that because of the nature of college football, where, I don't know, like 99%, what are we talking about? 97%? Let's say 95% of the teams in college football play empty, up-tempo, quick pass, wide open. It's a passing game. That's college football now. Couple academies and Michigan play, we're going to get you in a phone booth and we're going to run it all day long and we're going to drag you up on one side of the field. That's hard to prepare for. You can prepare for it, but it's not what you practice all year long. And then you get down there and say, hey, we got to practice for this. That's difficult. That's an advantage for Michigan. And I think that they could use that getting into the college football playoff, and I think they could win it. So I'm not completely dismissing anybody that wants to be like on a sports talk show or a host saying that just what JG is saying here, good enough to beat Ohio State, but not good enough to win it all. Understandable. I just I agree with it, except I think that they have a better chance than, because everybody wants it definitive. No way! Without being able to throw bombs to be able to win it. And there is a way. There is a path that Michigan could win it all. Playing the way that they're playing right now. Captain with another theory. Michigan is missing passes on purpose to bait Ohio State into zero press coverage. Now, I like this one. Michigan they knew they were going to beat Nebraska. They thought they were going to beat Rutgers handily. So they went to the rope-a-dope. They went to Ali against Foreman, where Ali stood on the ropes and just kept taking the shots, and it looked like he was in trouble. And Smoking Joe kept hitting him in the body. He kept trying. And you know what happened to Frazier is that he punched himself out, and then Ali got up and won the fight. Michigan running the rope-a-dope on Ohio State. Chances? I love it. No, I don't believe it, Captain, but I like it so much that I want to believe it. Captain's got more theories. Okie is 0.1% heat-seeking missile by DNA. Oh, I think you're selling him a little bit short. I think he's more. I think if you ripped off Yabi Okie's jersey, I think you may find a machine underneath those shoulder pads, or you may just peel it back and see a big S on his chest. Because he's been playing like a Superman, just like with that defense. Let's take some of the feedback here. Steven says we can and will beat OSU. I think we make the championship and possibly win it all. There he is. Look at Steven's a believer. See JG. We will need Okie to step it up next weekend when we play OSU. We can definitely beat OSU. I know we got Illinois, but it's hard as a fan to not talk about next Saturday. I understand. Steven saying Ronnie Bell to the NFL next year. Yeah, that's not a big surprise to me. There's only one person saying our route tree is too simple. No, you know what? No, Steven, there's a lot of people that are saying that. It depends, where you hang out and, who you're listening to, what you're reading, what you're watching. I probably spent too much time on Twitter. But there were a lot of people on Twitter talking about route trees and talking about the coaches and talking about passing game coordinators, and it's on the coaches and the scheme, and not so much on the quarterback and the wide receiver, because that's who it's on. It's on the quarterback and it's on the wide receiver. Take it from me. And I don't know how much football everyone watches. I can tell you, I was sitting back in my lazy chair on Sunday watching those 4 o'clock games, watching Green Bay get beat by 14 in the fourth quarter. And when I saw Aaron Rodgers, just go back, Aaron Rodgers just took the snap, went back, and he just threw the ball down the field. It's kind of like people that are listening just to the podcast, you won't be able to see. This is kind of how it looked, Aaron Rodgers. It's kind of a flick of the wrist. He kind of threw it out there. And you know what Christian Watson did? There was no route tree, double combo moves, slant turned into a fade, pick at the line, anything else. Christian Watson just ran down the field. And you know what Rodgers is really good at? He's really good at throwing the deep ball. You know why? He's a Hall of Famer. He's coming off of 2 back-to-back MVP seasons. And you know what it really takes to throw the deep ball? Accuracy, touch, confidence. And you need the receiver, because I think it was in the first game, Watson, it was pretty much the same exact play. He just ran down the field, post, and Rodgers threw it out there to him, and Watson put his hands out. The ball hit him in the hands, dropped. And it wasn't like, a missile where it's like, ooh, bad trajectory. Man, that was tough. You looked at it, and the way it dropped in his hands, you were like, wow, that's a terrible drop. But this past Sunday, when Watson was running down there, and he didn't really have, he wasn't wide open. The guy was right on his shoulder. He just stuck his hands out. You know what happened? Ball just dropped right in his hands. And he kind of just used the speed a little bit, got away from the defensive back. Boom. Touchdown. Greg Olson, the color commentator, these guys getting paid, I don't know how much he's getting. I know Romo gets like 17 million. He's got to get a couple million. Olson goes, that might be the biggest catch in his career. Wait a second. He's a rookie second round pick who had no receiving touchdowns on the year. I knew that. And I'm just sitting back in the lazy chair, and I got to hear Greg Olson say, this might be the biggest catch he's ever. Might be. All right. We want to make it. We want to say, the coaches and the scheme and the route trees and the, combos and, all these different things. Quarterback, receiver, throw, catch. Now, I said all of that, and on the Maize and Blue review, if you've watched this for any length of the time, a frequent guest is Trevor McHugh. He's a writer for us. He did an excellent, he dove into the tape of J.J. McCarthy, every pass downfield, intermediate throws, how he does on play action, how he does when he's dropping back, how he does when he rolls out. He did it all. It's very fine read. Excellent work by McHugh. I loved it. It's there now. You can check it out. But when you're a really good running team, this was the part that didn't surprise me. Guess where J.J. McCarthy's really good with his accuracy and his completion percentage? On play action. Michigan's running the ball really well. So when they go to the play action, gives them a little bit of advantage. You get a little bit of an advantage when you're really running the ball well and you use play action. Yeah, I understand this. Jason's saying we need to get out of the Illinois game healthy. I hear you. Logan is going to be at the game this weekend. He can't wait. It's his first time ever going to the big house. Well, Logan, the first time you ever go to the big house, it's very dreamy. Because if you are, Logan, and you are, I've recognized your name. You are a Michigan fan. I can recall myself growing up when my uncle, who had season tickets, and we'd go swimming at his house in the summer all the time, and all the cousins and uncles and everybody would sit out in the garage. And my uncle, he would just talk about going to the Michigan games, and he would talk about how big the stadium was, and he would, and just a little guy, and and he never didn't talk about tailgate and everything, but he loved the stadium. That there was more people that would go to the game than actually live in Ann Arbor. I remember him saying that, which I was like, wow, what kind of city is this? And then he would say things like, you just have to go, because once you go, there's all these different things that are going on that you're not aware of if you're just watching on TV. People are pulling out their keys and jingling them. And all the different, coordination with the band that's out there and everything else that's going on. It is. I'm not 100% what this particular dance is. I think it's called the Bullwinkle. I've been to enough games, but I don't know. You just start going like this, and they just keep going, and the band just keep dot, 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 and then everybody just keeps going like this. That's my favorite. I don't know if that's been around for 100 years or not. I like it at all sporting events that Michigan does, whatever they do, 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 do. Just remember that one, Logan. When they start going like this, you say, well, Mithian likes that. That's his favorite. JG believes that the pass plays we ran against Nebraska, the pass plays is what needed to be worked on. It's hard to believe we don't have any pass plays that we execute in practice saved for OSU. Yeah, look, you can do, like I just said, you get the wide receiver and you run them on down there, and it's about, getting the protection, throwing the ball, and catching it, which is essentially true. You can do a lot of different things with your protection, to try to get that extra click so you can, get a guy down there. You can scheme guys open that way where, you're running maybe a combination move or something, and you're getting that protection there. But, saving up particular pass plays. Now, the way that you want to run them and a different look, I do like the Ohio State. I do like talking about it and everything because you go through and when I'm watching, like yesterday, Scarcelli's going through all the tape. He's like, and this is something that completely broke tendencies. Now, instead of going to the power side, we started pulling everybody and going to the right side. And it's like, okay, you're watching that on film and you're Ohio State and you're like, look, all season long, they were going to the left. Now they're going to the right. I mean, I don't know, like, there you go. Hey, now they're pulling the tackle and the guard to the right, and yet they're handing it off to the left. I mean, that's football. I'll be looking for certain things, personnel and all that. Captain likes what you're talking about. Let's get to some of the other stuff. I like the idea that Michigan is setting things up for Ohio State. All right, let's get to this comparison. You got Blake Corum on one side and Chase Brown on the other. These are two outstanding running backs. If Illinois hadn't lost their last two games and Brown would have gone off in those games, we'd be sitting here talking about maybe two of the top five candidates for the Heisman Trophy. As it is, because Illinois dropped their last two, so too, they dropped Chase Brown off the front page of the Heisman contenders. However, he is an outstanding back. If you look at his numbers compared to Blake Corum, they both wear the number 2. Because you look, Blake Corum's having a great year, and he's rushed for 1,349 yards, 17 TDs, with a 5.9 average. Chase Brown has run for more yards than Blake Corum. And Corum has a receiving TD, so a total of 18 touchdowns to 10 for Brown, but they're pretty good numbers. I mean, numbers-wise, Chase Brown is having a hell of a year, and, 1442 leads the nation in rushing. That's a nice feather to have in your cap. If you're not going to be able to be a Heisman finalist, certainly win the Heisman, being able to lead the country in rushing, that's something you want to do. Excuse me, something you want to do. Now, Corum's in the top 5. And both teams have good rush defenses, Michigan being number 1, but Illinois is way up there. And so if either back goes off, it is, noteworthy. Certainly, if Michigan has a tough time with Chase Brown, that's going to be noteworthy because Michigan has been great against the run. Back number 1. And Illinois is way up there too. And so, they could spoil things a little bit for Blake Corum. It's one of those things that state fans never quite got. Like Kenneth Walker was like a really great running back last year. And on November 1st, he was number 1. I keep a Heisman list. I had him number 1. But like if Corum rushed for 25 yards this Saturday, he'd likely be done. I mean, he could come up against Ohio State and, stranger, but you're pretty much done. Now everybody's looking. It's the end of the season. Everybody's like, oh, this guy's one of the front runners for the Heisman, 25 yards? Not anymore. Walker last year was number 1. And I was like, he's playing at Ohio State. He goes off against Ohio State. Man, this guy could win the Heisman Trophy. And he came up lame and rushed for, 17 yards. You can't do that. And, all the state fans are like, he still should have been invited. No, he shouldn't have. Really, if you looked at it, they don't really. But can he pick? Well, I don't know. I didn't have Kenny Pickett in my top 5, but I had some defenders in front of Kenneth Walker, who fell off after coming up with his disappointing performance. All right, let's see how these guys do. But Brown, and you may say, but yeah, Brown, you're just saying yesterday he left the game, couldn't put weight on his leg and everything else. That's true. Brett Bielema yesterday said that Chase Brown and another injured player are, quote, trending in the right direction. Talked about knowing more on Friday. I mean, that's where we're at with these injured players at this time of the year. And but if you're an Illinois fan or if you're a Michigan fan and like, hey, I want to see the number one, I want to see how Michigan's defense does against the number one running back in the country in terms of yards gained. He's trending in the right direction. That's better than we don't know, or he's got some things he's got to work. I mean, all those kind of things. It's a positive. I think if you're looking to see Chase Brown out there, it's not the NFL. NFL have to have those distinctions whether they practice or not. My guess is that Chase Brown did not practice, or if he did, was in very limited fashion. And then, just like in the NFL, on a Friday, you'll know on a Thursday if you're able to participate in practice, even on a limited basis, that you might have a shot to practice. But if there's no practice this week, then it's going to be difficult to get him out there. It's like with the Michigan guys. Mike Morris said yesterday, and you remember Morris late in that game, it didn't look good. He did get up, which did look good, but for, I don't know, a minute, it didn't look good. But he said yesterday he's feeling great. He called it just a little tweak and said he will be fine. So I'm going to put that in the really good news, injury news category for Michigan, that Mike Morris is feeling great, and he said that he will be fine. Right from the horse's mouth, or right from the new TV star who I saw there with that insurance guy selling insurance. I liked it. Congratulations, Mike, on that. As for the other guys, Trevor Keegan, Luke Schoolmaker, Donovan Edwards, we'll have to see what happens at practice this week. Here's a little tidbit for you. Anybody that's running any kind of podcast or whatever, reporting that these guys are going to be fine and everything's all set, I would take that with a grain of salt. Now, if they say Schoolmaker was back at practice, they heard, and had no limitations, then, that would be something I'd be like, hey, that's... But if somebody's like saying, I don't know, for instance, Donovan Edwards, I think he'll be fine and he'll play. Based on, is he back at practice? Was he participating in a limited basis? Was he sitting out and you're just hoping? I mean, so what are we saying here? What I'm saying is you're probably not going to know about any of those guys. Although, it felt like Schoonmaker, there was potential for him to play if it was against Ohio State. So, those guys are trending in the right direction. But we'll see on Thursday. Not we will. They will. And then maybe they'll get some news that'll trickle out about their availability for Saturday. Keegan, Schoonmaker, and Edwards. Let's get some more of your feedback up here. SG is saying that we have the ingredients to beat Ohio State. I don't care what anybody says. We just can't do stupid things in that game. We make OSU play our game, make them do long drives. It sounds, JG, I'm with you. JP says he told his girlfriend that ball control is the ticket to a championship. Little did I know at the time, she understood. Been married 8 years. I like it. It's not like that Fansville commercial where what they call it, fansplaining. Jason, if you told her ball control, she's like, I know what ball control is. And then when she leaves the room, you're like, yeah, but time of possession is going to be really important. All right. Richard The New York Giants time of possession 40-33. So I'm thinking he looked up the Super Bowl. Let's go back. And what was last night's time of possession for the Eagles? Damn, wow, 40. We're talking about a difference of 7 seconds, Richard. So this season makes it more important. He said it was a Super Bowl record. And if you miss this, being able to run the football and control the clock, time of possession, play good defense, it was the formula for Belichick and the Tuna way back in Super Bowl 25. According to Richard, a time of possession of 40 minutes and 33 seconds. And then last night, the Commanders, taking a page out of the Giants XXV Super Bowl, had the time of possession of 40-24. Very similar, Richard. And Michigan, what was the time of possession last year? And Michigan's win, see how quickly we can get that. So we're going to look for, talk amongst yourselves here. So I will type in Michigan, Ohio State. I can tell you that I've done this more than once. 2021. 42-27. Hey, very familiar with that score. If you would have said, name the score from last year for $100, I'd have $100 in my pocket. I knew it was 42-27. Time of possession last year, pretty even, actually. So look at that. I would have thought that Michigan, if you'd have said, did Michigan have time of possession on Ohio State last year, I would have said, yeah, oh yeah, Michigan, the way they were running the ball. But the time of possession was 31-48 for Ohio State to 28-12 for Michigan. Surprising. Let's see what else, if there's anything surprising. Ohio State ran 79 plays, Michigan just 61 last year. Michigan was not very penalized last year, just 2 penalties, 10 on the undisciplined Buckeyes from last year. No interceptions thrown, no fumbles lost for OSU. Michigan with that 1 interception by McNamara early in that game into the end zone. But the big discrepancy here, look at passing yards. Ohio State had 394 passing yards on Michigan last year. 394. And yet they only ran the ball 64 times. Michigan rushed for 297 yards against Ohio State. Haskins, what did he have? 5 touchdowns, 28 carries, 169 yards. I think something that Corum could do. Captain, I wasn't taking it that serious, especially after I saw your remaining points. I like it. I actually thought it was good. JG thinks the team that we need to better passing is Georgia. That's it. Yeah. I mean, that's and yet I still think they'd have a chance against Georgia. But I would like to see him. It's not like I don't want to see him pass the ball downfield. I'm just saying it can be done. They won't be the favorite. Richard thinking that now Roman's back, so too will be the long ball. Maybe holes in the OSU secondary, maybe a light D line. I don't know. Like I hear all of the, I hear from Michigan fans. I think it's, and I'm right there with you. I'm not over here telling everybody you better take them seriously. They're a lot better than people are saying. But almost everybody in everybody in Michigan, you hear them talk about Ohio State. It's like they're soft, they can't play, the windy, they just want to throw the ball. Finesse team, not that big defensively, Big 12 defense, all these things, right down the list. Like they're not all that good. Statistically, they're really good, but Richard indicating that Michigan is the last team to beat Ohio. You know what? I kind of like how you spell Ohio, Richard. OGIO. Kind of feels like it's the way it should be spelled. Shane with the point of Georgia being on a neutral field, very beatable, also pronounced. We are 2 wins away from getting to that eventual matchup. Maybe 3. Wait, Illinois, Ohio State, Big Ten championship game, college semifinal. They could be 4. They could play 5 more games. It's credible sounding, but that's the idea. That's what you want right now. We know they're going to play Illinois for sure. We know they're going to play Ohio State for sure. They win those 2 games, they're going to Indy. They go to Indy. Let's say I feel good about them winning in Indy. They're going to the college football playoff again. They win the semifinal, and they're going to the final. 5 games. They could see Georgia in the 4th game or 5th. If we're just talking about how we want to see it play out, I'd like to see Michigan just, take care of business. A little TCB, like Elvis used to wear around his neck. A little TCB against Illinois. And then it's on, man. Get ready for Ohio State. Go down to Columbus. Win that game. Head to Indy. I don't care who they play in the crossover. I want to play Georgia in the championship game. So whoever, I don't think that TCU is going to be there. I think they're going to lose. So it's going to be a 1-loss team. Is it going to be Tennessee? Tennessee didn't really have any. Is it going to be LSU? That's a tough one. Who is going to be that 4th team? It's not coming out from the if it's not going to come from the Big 12, and it's not going to come from the Pac-12, might be Ohio State again. Woo! Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and who will be that 4th team? That's what we're talking about. Think about it. Andres does not like the Rodgers talk. Yeah, I don't know why. I'm sorry. I don't like Aaron Rodgers myself. I was polling for the Cowboys. I just saw him throw the ball, and I was like, looked pretty good. Okay. Let's have a final check on some instant feedback. Bob talking about Corum being consistent. Christopher saying that the way Corum pushes 5 or 6 guys downfield is next level. Bob saying that Edwards is one of our better receivers, no question. He might be their second best after, I don't know, Bell, Schoonmaker, Edwards. I think you can make a case for that. I don't know, Roman Wilson. Let me put him in there. Let's see. USC. Carol 22 is giving us the 4th one. Let's go for what he has to say. Georgia, Michigan, Tennessee, Ohio State. So a little Michigan, Tennessee. Woo! There we go. Michigan, Tennessee, Georgia, Ohio State. Michigan hadn't played Tennessee since they played in the what's it called? The Alp? No, it's called the I call it the Lloyd Carr Bowl, the Citrus Bowl, in the early 2000s. Casey Clausen as the quarterback for Tennessee. Oh, I could tell you. Should I tell the story of my Michigan Tennessee bowl experience at the Citrus Bowl? Probably told it before. Let me just told a really condensed version. I've stayed at the Radisson Barcelo down there in a great suite. It was an awesome time. Went out to New Year's. This was before I was married. Some girls showed up at the place I was broadcasting, and I said, "Why don't you come on down to downtown Orlando with us?" All girls, 4 or 5 of them. I'm in. I'm thinking it's getting ready for getting close to midnight. I'm thinking, I'm probably going to be getting a kiss from 3 or 4 of these girls. I better head to the bathroom and freshen up. It was a long line, and I think midnight happened while I was in line for the bathroom. I came back, and so I missed my window. for all the kisses and everything. But the next day, I went down on the field, and Jason Witten and Kelly Washington and Dante, just great wide receivers, and they're running these layup lines out there, but receiving lines, and I was very intimidated. I'd never seen anything quite like it. And I remember Witten running down the field, running past Cato June for a touchdown. I'm like, man, that guy's going to be in the pros. And Michigan lost that game, but I got Michigan, which happens to me sometimes all week long. I'm like, I like Tennessee. I see the advantage of Tennessee. It's all Tennessee. And then I started doing the pregame, and I just sometimes you start seeing the maize and blue. You get older, you got to, focus in really what's going on there. And I turned on game day. I said, picking Michigan. Michigan's going to do it. And they got killed in the game. That's the short version of the last time Michigan played Tennessee. Was it around 2000, 2003, 2004? That's it. It happens. Things come up. I wouldn't mind seeing that matchup again. Yeah, it happens. I can tell you, I thought, Andres, I went back with 3 or 4 of those same girls, and they were staying, I had a suite at the Barcelo, and they were staying at the Ducks walk through the lobby. And I went to their hotel, and I'm thinking, I'm going back to a hotel with 3 girls. This is going to be a lot. But it was so late, and I was so tired. And, it's New Year's Eve. You have a drink or two. It was like, am I getting up? It's not what I was imagining. Like I would think about, or I would talk through. I'm like, hey, wait a second. What's going on here? I just went back to the hotel by myself, but I made it to the football game on time. That was the long and short of it. But there were some times the night before where I'm thinking, man, this might be one of the greatest nights of my life. And it was still very memorable, and I did have a lot of fun. It's just none of the, like some of the things that you might think that I was going down the path to. None of that happened. Nice ladies, nice girls, and everything else. Maybe that was the problem. Okay. Coming up tomorrow, not only will we be coming up and talking a little bit more about Michigan. Yeah, the Peabody. There you go, Marcus. Nice hotel, nice place. And the Ducks walk through the lobby. Not only will we be talking about Michigan football, but wait for it, Michigan basketball as well, because they will be in action. The Wolverines in their 3rd game. They'll be out at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York to take on Pitt. That's a 6:00 start. We'll be on after that game, but tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about the Michigan basketball team as well as the Michigan football team. We're not all just, you think, well, it's predictable. The only thing you talk about is football. That's not true. We talk about basketball. Let's go. Okay. See you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for participating. And we'll be here at 1:00.